I think what's really clear to us is that this is more than just about immigration or deportations. This is about a red line in the sand that Donald Trump is now stepping over. The fact that he's unwilling to listen to the Supreme Court, of which he appointed conservative justices to, is a fire alarm moment in this country. He has been ordered to bring Abreu Garcia back to the United States and refused to do so. This should be a bipartisan issue. All Americans should be putting pressure on Donald Trump to do the right thing, not just because it's the right thing to do for human rights or for him and his family. He has to do it for due process and law in this country. So that's why we're advocating. This is bigger than about just Kilmer Garcia. This is about due process in the United States.
Right. And certainly many Democrats have argued that about defying the Supreme Court. The White House has claimed that it isn't. And this looks to be headed right back to the Supreme Court. I'm just wondering, Congressman Frost, is the message about due process and Abreu Garcia, for his part, not getting it and so forth, is that really resonating with your constituents right now?
It is. And the reason I went on the trip is because I've received hundreds of phone calls, messages, mail correspondence from my constituents who live here in Florida's 10th asking me to do something. I represent a very, very diverse community full of immigrants, full of people from our...
Agarré, patrona. Agarré duro.
Oh, sí, está pesado. Está pesado. Yo no sabía que estaba...
What, is it?
Yeah, it's heavy.
Put it on.
A ver, claro, patrón, ¿cómo es que sí?
Boy. So we got to talk about a crazy story that I think is a perfect example of just how much Democrats love illegal immigrants, okay? So these Democrats love illegals so much that they will fly across the globe to bring illegal immigrants back to this country. And it doesn't matter if the illegal immigrant is an alleged gang-banging, wife-beating human trafficker. They don't care. They want to bring them back to the United States of America, okay? Because according to them, illegal immigrants have a right to be in this country, okay? They will snatch other country citizens to bring them to the United States. Apparently, you have some Democrats that are so cool for Cocoa Puffs that they will allow illegal immigrant gang members to stay with them. Literally, they will harbor illegal immigrants. And that is what happened with this judge out of Doña Ana County, okay, New Mexico. Magistrate Judge Jose Joel Cano has stepped down days after an alleged Venezuelan gangbanger was caught living in his home. Okay, so this is a crazy scandal that I think, again, is a prime example of just how much Democrats love illegals and how far they'll go to protect the illegal immigrants. So without further ado, let's get into this.
I'm Christine Frizzau in Washington, where President Trump continues to push the boundaries with his immigration policy and has been met with some pushback from federal judges and even the U.S. Supreme Court. Meanwhile, a judge in New Mexico serving since 2011 has just resigned following allegations he's been allowing a member of the gang Tren de Aragua to live with him and handle guns in his house. At first glance, the videos and photos tell a story of a family that loved guns, but who they shared those guns and their home with came as a shock to local authorities. The homeowner, Joel Cano, a Democratic judge in Doña Ana County, New Mexico, who resigned last month following a raid on his home, in which Christian Ortega Lopez was arrested, charged with being in the country illegally and possessing a firearm.
This judge's daughter is allowing this illegal alien to have access to firearms, which is unlawful under 18 U.S.C. 922G. It is a felony for this illegal alien to be in possession of firearms.
Court documents reveal he entered the country unlawfully in December 2023, and a few months later had been hired by the judge's wife, Nancy, who later offered him a place to stay in her residence that she shared with her husband. But most shocking, Homeland Security officials say Ortega Lopez displayed clear indicators of his association with the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua.
Democrats will say no, right? Democrats will say no. This guy, he's not a gang member. What are you talking about? He's an upstanding citizen. It is hate and bigotry to say that this guy, okay, this dude right here is dangerous, right? No. Democrats will invite people like this into their house, bruh. to stay with them. Okay? So, no, according to Democrats, no, there's no evidence. These tattoos are not evidence. He's dangerous, that he's Tren de Aragua. None of that, right? You're just making stuff up, right? According to Democrats and their logic.
TDA. Not just his clothing or tattoos, but voicemails and text messages they say provide significant evidence for their case against him. One reason they ask that he remain behind bars.
Doña County has been a hotbed of illegal immigration and drug trafficking, human smuggling for many, many years. And to see that a judge would allow this to happen, it's very concerning. It's concerning, what else has this judge been doing?
What we don't know is if Judge Cano or his wife will be charged with any crimes, like harboring an illegal immigrant or providing material support to a foreign terror group. President Trump designated TDA, as well as other gangs like MS-13, foreign terrorist organizations in an executive order he signed on his first day in office. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
Yeah, I believe this judge definitely should be charged 100%. I think that a lot of these Democrats should be investigated. In fact, I remember when the New Jersey governor basically alluded to this idea that he's harboring illegal immigrants.
Talking about, I don't want to get into too much detail, but there's someone in our broader universe whose immigration status is not yet at the point that they are trying to get it to. And we said, you know what, let's have her live at our house above our garage. And good luck to the feds coming in to try to get her.
Yeah, so I personally think that this is a lot more common than what people think in regards to these woke Democrats trying to protect illegals, okay? Having them come in their homes and, taking care of them and stuff like that. Not surprised at all, right? This story is kind of crazy because, again, the judge resigned. He really should be charged, okay, and prosecuted for this. But let's read a little bit more here. A spokesperson for New Mexico's administrative office of the courts explained that the state Supreme Court and the third judicial district court where Cano was based did not receive his resignation until March 31st. Revelations about the alleged gangbanger living in Cano's residence were made in court documents seeking to keep Ortega Lopez in detention. The story has since gained traction in local media, including the Albuquerque Journal newspaper. Ortega Lopez began interacting with Cano's family a little over a year ago after helping the judge's wife install a glass door and doing other odd jobs for her. Yeah, so again, this guy basically was doing cheap labor, cheap work, because you know how these Democrats are. They love the slave labor, right? Every time you listen to what these Democrats talk about why illegals should be allowed to stay in the country, the first thing that come out of their mouth is, well, who gonna pick our cotton, right? Who gonna build our houses? Okay, so again, they love the slave labor. Okay, this is what they're advocating for in 2025. By April last year, he was booted from his apartment in El Paso that he shared with 5 others, which prompted Nancy Cano, the judge's wife, to offer him lodging in the casita of their home in Las Cruces, New Mexico. During his stay, Ortega Lopez seemingly began to bond with the judge's daughter, April Cano, quote, who possessed a large number of firearms and let him hold on to some of them per the court. Oh man, it sounds like the legal was out here clapping cheeks, right? Clapping cheeks in the casita, okay? He began to bond with the judge's daughter, okay? So I think there's a lot more to this story, okay, than what we're learning, okay? I think that the rabbit hole is very deep on this story, okay? Ortega Lopez, who illegally entered the U.S. in 2023 but was released from a U.S. Customs and Border Patrol facility due to overcrowding, admitted that he knew he wasn't allowed to possess firearms due to his status as an illegal immigrant. He had climbed over a barbed wire fence near Eagle Pass, Texas, and copped to illegally enter the U.S. per court documents. Authorities had received a tip about Ortega Lopez and found images of him on social media with tattoos, with clothing, making hand gestures commonly associated with Tren de Aragua, court filings claim. Prosecutors attached images of Ortega Lopez's tattoos and other evidence they are leaning on to accuse him of affiliation with TDA. Yeah, according to Democrats, tattoos and stuff like that, not evidence, right? Gang signs, not evidence, right? According to Democrats, okay? If you had to live up to Democrat standard, it would be impossible to prove that somebody's a gang member. The defendant is a danger to the community because he is a member of the United States designated foreign terrorist organization, Tren de Aragua, and regularly associates with other members. They wrote in a filing to keep him detained. Ortega Lopez was arrested alongside 3 other Venezuelan illegal immigrants as part of an operation conducted by Homeland Security Investigations. The Post was unable to make contact with Joel Cano for comment. The governor will appoint someone to fill the vacancy through the remainder of the judge's unexpired 4-year term that runs until the end of 2026. New Mexico's administrative office of the court's spokesperson, Barry Massey, told the Post. Yeah, so this illegal immigrant is charged with being an illegal immigrant and possession of a firearm and ammunition. If convicted, he could face 15 years behind bars, okay? But they might try to send him to El Salvador. Who knows, okay? And then the Democrats will boo-hoo, whine, and cry and say there's no evidence that he's a gang member. But, stories like this, again, I think show you just how much these Democrats love illegals, okay? They can know for sure that, maybe it's a good idea for us not to be defending illegals like this, but they'll do it anyways. I mean, if you listen to Joe Scarborough, right, that's essentially what he said on his program. He said, well, this is kind of bad optics for the Democrats, but at the same time, hey, maybe this is the hill they should die on. Take a look.
To basically summarily deport people without any due process, branding them gang members without any evidence. People aren't even sure what the charges are against them, and they've basically been shipped to what, in effect, is a legal black site in a third country.
And there has been a wing of the Republican Party that has wanted this for a long time. You write about that. There's also, of course, when I was there, another wing that was sort of like the more Reagan wing, which was let as many immigrants in as want to come in. It's better for our economy. But Donald Trump, though, if you look at his approval numbers, they're upside down, especially on inflation, on the economy, on things they've never been upside down on. But you look at his numbers on immigration, and they're up there. Like, they would far rather us be talking about immigration and Abreu Garcia than talking about Jay Powell or the stock markets. And they will Hegseth. And they will tell you, please, they're thinking, please talk about, immigration instead of Hegseth, immigration instead of tariffs, immigration instead of the market, because his numbers are strong on immigration.
Well, you're zeroing in on something that I think has really befuddled Democrats, which is the fact that, his numbers seem strong on immigration. I do really think, and I insist, that although people in general, when you look at polling, say, okay, they're okay with the idea of mass deportation, they're okay with the idea of increased immigration enforcement and so on, what we're actually seeing is something far harsher than anything he's promised, something far uglier than anything he said he would do. I do think that by and large, if Americans followed closely what was happening to people who were caught up in this immigration enforcement dragnet, I do think they would be appalled. But it's up to Democrats to really hold his feet to the fire. And right now, I think they're anxious about it.
I think immigration's one issue, but I think Abreu Garcia, as flawed as he is in many ways, if you look back at his history, well, I'm talking about him as a person. If you look at him as a person, that might not be somebody that people say, oh, this is who we want to, go down and visit in El Salvador, et cetera, et cetera. If you look at domestic violence, et cetera, et cetera. And yet at the same time, that is breaking through. I had a debate with a friend of mine. It was like, oh, Democrats are so stupid. I said, I'm not so sure they're so stupid. I think this is so heinous that even with a guy that has a very complicated past, it is breaking through. And what did we see on Joe Rogan's show?
Yeah, okay, Joe Scarborough. Okay, it is breaking through. Really? Really? You really believe that? You really believe that normal, average, everyday people are like, oh, yeah. We should keep illegal immigrant, alleged gangbangers here in the United States of America, that we should be going to El Salvador to bring them back? I don't think that the American people agree with that.
So there's this illegal immigrant. He was living in Maryland, designated MS-13 terrorist, and Donald Trump deported him. How does that make you feel?
I feel safer.
He gotta go. He gotta go.
Need to go. I mean, that's it.
But he was a father.
But he's still a terrorist.
Okay. I mean, but there's children living without fathers now.
He should have picked and choose, so he picked to be a terrorist instead of worrying about his children.
The Democrats, they want him back. They say he was wrongfully deported. He has a wife and a kid who's a citizen. They're calling this a national emergency. Is this a national emergency?
I wouldn't call it a national emergency. We got more things going on.
We have more things, more fish to fry.
I just found out about it, so I don't think so. What kind of national emergency? For what? What is the emergency for?
Ain't no national emergency, no.
He was accused of hitting his wife twice and was a suspected human smuggler. Was he wrongfully deported?
No. He need to go.
If he's a smuggler, yeah, he needs to be deported.
It's better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, again, I personally do not think that what Joe Scarborough says is true, right? And it makes me feel really good, okay, about what Trump is doing. If Joe Scarborough thinks that Democrats are waiting on this issue, that this is quote unquote breaking through, great, right? Great, okay? Because I really do believe that this issue is going to be the Achilles heel of the Democrat Party when it comes to trying to revive their party. Again, you have woke judges that are harboring illegals, right? I mean, like bringing them in, letting them be a part of their family, stuff like that. Yeah, just not a good look, right? Not a good look at all for the Democrats. But like I said, this judge should definitely face charges. And in fact, him facing charges would set a great example for any other Democrat that may be harboring illegal immigrants, because I'm sure he's not the only one. Again, these Democrats seem to love illegals and want to go out of their way to make it as hard as possible to deport them. So therefore, yeah, he should be charged. And again, we should make an example out of him so that people understand that, no, there's not going to be any tolerance for harboring illegal immigrants, okay? Because, again, I believe that he's not the only Democrat doing this. I got a gut feeling a lot more of them are doing this. We just have to find out. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.